Welcome to the Toffee TV Podcast. We have been joined by the Piv, Andy, here to give all of his knowledge. Just it's we are in January, and I think it's now time that we delve in. And Andy's going to tell us every player we should be signing this month. He's got a list.
I haven't even prepared, so I haven't got a list.
It's all in his brain. He knows it.
It's all in my brain.
A good New Year, and Happy New Year to you, by the way.
A Happy New Year, fellas. Yeah, Happy New Year. It was a nice New Year. Quiet, I think, for everyone. You know,
it was good. I mean, Everton got it off to the normal New Year's Day performance from the Blues, where they ended in a defeat, which is part of the course. But yeah, overall, and I think me and Ped were talking on a couple of the shows we've done this week, but an excellent December, really, for Everton, and even if you include the West Ham game, a positive response from the Leeds defeat.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're not going to win every game to the end of the season. We're going to lose. I know, obviously, it's more the manner of the West Ham defeat that was the issue. But overall, we took points from games we never expected. So I thought Chelsea, obviously since Chelsea, we beat Chelsea, they haven't been any good. But I thought Chelsea would give us a real game, and they didn't. We swept them aside, and I think Everton has shown, when they've got the players in the team, the right players, that we're capable of beating most sides.
I mean, Ped's talked about, and he's right, has talked about the biggest problem I guess Carlo Ancelotti's got between now and the end of the season is finding a balance between the two different styles we've seen from the team so far this season. We saw very attacking, exciting football in the opening 4 or 5, 6 games of the season. Then obviously we had a poor spell for a few games, and then we come back with a more pragmatic, more counter-attacking, defensive counter-attacking style, and that's been very successful of late. But as West Ham proved it on New Year's Day, that if teams are going to come and mirror what we're doing, then we have to find a different way to crack that, don't we?
We do, yeah, and I think it's a blend of the two things. I think playing, full. I know Seamus Coleman played, but I think playing fullbacks, centre backs or fullbacks, are always going to have pride issues because you can't stretch teams out without having those overlapping fullbacks. And I don't think Seamus really, played well in that game anyway. But I think that's the key, as Ped said. The blend of the two is needed. Obviously, it's horses for courses. You need to change your style to play against. But because we have done so well this season, I think overall, most teams are going to come and sit in against us and keep it tight, especially when they're away from home. So we've got to find that way. And obviously with James, Dean, Iwobi, and others hopefully come, and Richarlison returns to form, we'll have people on the side who can break teams down. But we have to find a way.
It's weird that seeing Everton team have such a good away record and not the best home record, isn't it? And obviously that does come from that kind of style, doesn't it? Of the way that we want to sit in, the way we want to play in the counter attack. But as you just said there, we have to find a new way or another way, because you've seen with West Ham, teams will come to Goodison Park and do exactly the same as what we're trying to do to them, and it's difficult to combat that. It's all about that first goal, and if you haven't got it in you on the night and you haven't got that touch of quality, then we've got to find both ways if we are serious contenders for the top 6, if we want to be serious contenders.
But don't be wrong. I think Everton is still a few players off being a top 4 side, but top 6, I think that's 6th spot and maybe even 5th. A competitive. I think we can put if we can get the right results. Obviously, we'll push ourselves in there. I think top 4 is going to be difficult because I think those teams can put together runs of 5, 8, 10 games on the run where they pick up points. But at the end of the day, it's all to play for, and it's just finding that consistency. And hopefully, we get a bit of luck after late January with injuries and Alan comes back and others as well.
When you look at it, Pat, do you think the top 4 is beyond Everton? Yeah, I do. I do. Just because I think that when you get to the business end of the season, I think most teams have a defined way of playing, and they've worked through a lot of the problems. So I look at Chelsea at the moment, and we've just mentioned them. They're 3 points behind us, but you'd like to think that by the time the last 10 games come, they'll know a little bit more about themselves, and they've got better players. And I think
someone like Frank Lampard, he's working through the season, he's working through what he's got and how it all fits together. And I think with good players, you find that eventually, because they have got good players. They mightn't be good enough to win the league, but you find that. You look at Man United at the moment, the way they are in second place. They could go top if they won their game in hand, or certainly if they win the next couple of games, because obviously they've got a game and then they've got Liverpool. You look at how that team has come together in the last 12 months and how all the good players now they've got a lot of average players, but the good players trump that. And I think for us, we've just got too many average players to find that. We seen it with Leicester last season, didn't we? And it'll be interesting to see actually how they get on towards the end of the season, what they'll have learned from last season. They've got an identity, and for me, it's like they keep their players fit. Well, for us, I look at it thinking, number one, I don't think we've got an identity, and I don't think we've got enough players. So I think top four will be very, very difficult when it comes to that. When it comes to that time. But what I would say on the back of that is, though, I do feel like Carlo Ancelotti's learning about these players all the time, and is learning who fits where, and and as Andy said there, we do have players to come back, and if they come back at the right time, and he can find that balance, which ultimately is the thing, isn't it? The ultimate part is finding that right balance, because we either are defensive and we're trying to nick a goal, or you've seen us at the beginning of the season where we were free flowing but we were conceding goals. We've got to somehow find the balance, and I think for me that's going to take players. I don't see the players at the club already. I think we're all probably in agreement with that. I know Andy just mentioned it, but for you, and we are in January now, and I know that as someone in your line of work, January's not seen as a successful time of the year to buy, but do you look at it and think there are opportunities for Everton to get out there in the market?
Depends who's available, really. I think it's got to be the right player. I think if Everton can sign someone who was already on the docket for the summer, then by all means go out and sign them, because I've said it before, there's Luis Suarez at Liverpool, Aymeric Laporte at Manchester City, and a few others came in January, and they took a time to bed in, but by the next season they were ready to rock and roll. And I think I've got no problem in that. I think the expectation from fans, though, I understand this, is that we need to sign players to push for the top four, and you can try that, but in most cases it doesn't work off. There's not a lot of players who come in, overall, and the hundreds of January transfer windows who come and made a big difference. Obviously, people mention Aubameyang or Bruno Fernandes, Jelavic, people like that, but there's tons who haven't. So it's a balance, really. I think the market as well. I think if you see, for example, I said this on Twitter before I come off it the day, is that for an Ismail Assar or a Max Aarons, I know people at Norwich, they won't sell unless it's well over the value of what they think he's worth, because it's the middle of the season, they'd rather get promoted. So that's why people that tend to have, like Manchester United, have to overpay Sporting Lisbon. I know it's worked out well for them with Bruno, but they have to overpay on his price. So it's a difficult one, but if we can get the right player, be Baz's favourite, Leon Bailey, for the fair price, then bring him in by all means. But I think Everton, what I wanted to say is that at this point, if we did get fifth, I think that means that we were, with this team that we've got now, that means we've sort of overachieved really this season. I think sometimes you shouldn't deviate too much from the plan. I think for this season, the target was 6th, 7th, and then the next season when we do get those players, and it was to try and push more towards the top four. And I think we should stick on that trajectory rather than try and chance everything because the league's a bit weaker this season. I think you've got to be smart and not shoot your load too early, if you get what I mean.
I don't know where I go from there, but no, I mean, got me in the eye. That's a good point though, isn't it? Because where we fell victim internally, I think, in the last few years is maybe overreaching instead of taking one step at a time. And do you agree with Andy there, what he said, Baz, about being, looking at maybe the 5th and 6th positions and seeing as progress? Because it would be progress, wouldn't it? We haven't spent actually enough money this summer. I know we've spent lots in the last 4 or 5 years, but we haven't spent that much this summer to actually justify thinking that we should bet it all on one thing. If you know what, do you know what I mean? We've spent really, I think that's about 60 million,
60.
something like that. So it's not a figure where you go, oh, we have to get Champions League. It's a figure where you go, this is the first step to breaking into that top 4, and that means starting with 5th and 6th, which, if you look at the league at the moment and look at the way we're picking up points, that is achievable.
Yeah, you're right, we haven't spent enough money to go from 12th to 3rd in one fell swoop. Albeit, I don't think we were as bad as 12th last season. I think we dropped the last 4 or 5 games. We dropped off, I think. But it doesn't matter whether you're 9th or 12th, really. I mean, I understand why people would look at it and go, if we could grab a couple, then that could get us into the top 4. Because I said to you when we done the footy show this week, at this moment in time, there's no indication that this league's going to settle down. There's 3 points for him. Like 3rd to 9th or something, or whatever it is. So, you know, I'm 17 games in. I know we've only played 16, but a lot of teams have played 17 games. So that's a good sample size, really, to look at the league and go, maybe it won't settle down because of the way there's no fans in stadiums and all that. So I get people's points. Everton could quite easily finish in the top 4 this season if they get the players back from injury. We're talking about how Leicester had cope with injuries, or how Spurs had, or whoever. Well, that's the same for Everton. Everton are playing without Hammers in fit. Alan's been at one of our best players this season. You know, so there's 2. We haven't got Luca Dean, who's quite clearly one of our best. So Everton could, theoretically, gain enough points in the second half of the season to finish in the top 4. But I think you're both right. If we got into the Europa League, that would be big progress, and it'd certainly be a big tick, because we'd be able to then say, right, the manager's been in, it'd be 18 months, wouldn't it, by the summer? The manager's been here 18 months. We flipped the team from being a team that was middle table, because that's what it was. We've got them into Europe. We've brought better players in. We go again now. We're building again now. The players we've brought in have made a big difference. Now, this second phase of bringing people in, can that then make a big difference where we know that Everton are in the hunt for those top 6 places, and could we maybe get it a bit better and get top 4? But what would be really successful for Everton would be to get into the Europa League this season, and to get into the Europa League / Champions League again next season, because that would then, I've said to you before we start looking at trophies, and I would love that, how about that Everton actually putting back-to-back seasons together, where they're a team that people are going, Europe, they're a good side, they might do this, rather than, Everton have been good. I think they'll challenge for the Europa League again this season, and we finished 10th, because that's what's been the pattern since David Moyes left. Good season followed by a poor season, really.
Yeah, but what I do think is, though, is even though we've got players to come back, I'm still very wary of the way we play. I still don't think the way we play has been not. I know Carlo Ancelotti's said in the past he doesn't have a style as such, but I go back to that word balance. I just don't see a balance yet of knowing how we're going to play. I still don't know. I personally don't know what our best 11 is. Everyone can go, this looks great on paper, but how does it all fit together? Because before say James Rodriguez got injured or went out against Burnley, we were all clamouring for someone else in midfield, another destroyer, someone else who would play deep and allow Alan, more actually since Alan got injured. Would that mean Seamus Coleman? That would be Seamus Coleman right back, Dean left back, of course. But we were all sort of trying to find a way to get a balance in the team, because James Rodriguez wasn't seen to be offering us anything defensively, or certainly the team wasn't making up for that. So I still think that's still hanging over our heads, because we've gone back. We've been having to play this defensive unit, but I still feel like that's still there, and that to me means players, and that's where I look at it and go, wouldn't it be great if we could just get one in this window to get that style, so that we could get it.
So what would that be? Would it be another midfield player, or would it be a right back?
No, because I think a right back would be brilliant. But as Andy just said there, to get a right back in this market now would be, you'd be asking, unless you went and found some kid, which I'm sure Andy already has, but that is going to be the next big thing. and you're willing to take that chance on a player. You know, Max Aarons it just leaps off the page because it's someone who's been played in the Premier League already. But as Andy said, they're a championship title chasing team. They want to come back in the Premier League, so they probably would be prepared to sell, but at a big price. That's why it was good that we got Ben Godfrey at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So I look at the right back situation going, it's going to be a big one there. But I look at the centre midfield situation and think, is there something we could do somewhere? You know, is there someone out there that could be a prototype of what we need? And I know this might sound stupid and Andy will shoot me down. I know the minute I say this, he'll shoot me down. But I'd be tempted to go to Paris Saint-Germain and ask them, can we take Garner on loan? If he's not part of their plans. I mean, what do you think about that, Andy? Because honestly, I just think if we could...
That's fine in terms of a loan. I've got no issues with with loan signings as long as they're not I'd rather sign 20 players on loan. I know you can't legally, but than sign people like Sami Khedira on 18-month contracts, because I think Garner will give us something 6 months. He doesn't have to adapt, and I think he can step straight in, and we know what sort of we get at least a 7.5, 8 out of 10. So I've got no problem with deals like that. It's other type of risky chasing deals like the Sami Khediras or Josh Kings, where I think those players would be on the fifth midfielder or the fourth winger within about within months as soon as they signed another one. So I don't mind a short-term loan signing if you can get it. It's just got to be the right one. But no, I think, like you said, the two places that it's in either or is just sign a centre midfielder and then you keep James on the right, or do you play James centrally and sign a right back? Then I think they're the two positions that we need to probably upgrade most. I think we've probably got enough. I know we're lacking a second striker, but I don't think we should sign a specialist backup striker, because I think they just sit on the bench as long as Dom's fit. You might see them in a couple of late games, but it's a waste of a wage unless they're versatile. So I think if we could get a midfielder on loan, or a younger one who we could get an option to buy on, then by all means. I don't think I don't think I'm averse to
Andy,
that.
can I ask you about this then, in terms of the team framework, with James switching into what people would say is Gylfi's role at the moment? Yeah. Do you think Everton could get away with him playing centrally, but with still having someone like Mason Holgate or Ben Godfrey at right back? So what I mean by that is more defensive structure with those 4 defenders, but the rest of the team almost more offensive. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think at times we've switched between a 4-4-2 without put the ball, or a 4-5-1. I think if James does it, you're probably okay to go 4-4-2 because he can just push high and press. You don't have to ask him to track back. He just has to basically block off the passes and press, really. Whereas if he has to play the 4-5-1, then that's sort of, he has to do more defending. So I think you can do that, and then you leave the back 4 it is, and then you can allow, if Alan sits, obviously he can still get up and down. It then allows Decore to shuffle up the pitch. Obviously, it would be a Wobie at right wing, I guess, and then James. Then yes, we have got that firepower that would allow us to do so. So yeah, in the short term, I think obviously it'll change when we sign more players in the summer. But I think that would work. Yeah, I think you'd still have the cover with a Wobie and Richarlison. I know Wobie's the greatest defender, but he covers the fullback much better than James does. So yeah, I think that would work.
Looking at solutions to what you're saying, because I honestly don't believe under Carlo we will ever have a style. What I think you'll get is a better quality of player, which means that as long as they play to a framework, it'll be, I don't want to say off the cuff, but that's kind of what it'll be. We'll have a defensive structure and your better players will unpick teams, because that's generally what his teams have done, haven't they? They've been that much quality that they've unpicked teams.
He's got principles. I don't think he's got a particular philosophy. Like, you watch Hassan, they play the same way every game, same system. Carlo's more one that fits his system and his philosophy to what he's got. But I think, you're like, it's similar to Mourinho in the fact that there's a defensive structure and a structure without the ball. But once they go into the final third, then it's relying on those players to then, don't be wrong, they'll work on movements and they'll do rondos and the way and stuff. But I don't think that it's heavily as patterned as, say, a Liverpool or a Southampton or even other clubs. But I think that's what the way Carlo's always worked. And as I say, the more quality you get in that final,
let's just talk for a minute about some of the players we have been linked to, because you mentioned Sami Khedira. And we get that age-old thing, and of, he's better than what we've got. He's better than this player, he's better than that player, but we can, is he though? I mean, is he better than the players we've got in terms of like, yeah, okay, people might go, oh, Sami Khedira, he's won this, he's won that, he's won everything, but, you know, what's he done for the last 2-3 years, and he's done, you know...
Well, he's not played a game since he had heart surgery.
Yeah.
Had a lot of operations, yeah. You see, I think. Do you know what? I think the more I read into this and speak to people, I think it's him and his agents are just going to the press constantly saying in Everton. So it's trying to get other teams to get in. Now you may sign for Everton for all I know. So, but the issue with Sami Khedira, and I think this has been a thing that's been out on Twitter, is his injury history is 4 pages long. It's worse than James. You know, whatever you think of James, James is going to miss games by the by. But James is 29 and still at his relative peak. Sami Khedira is past his best, and I think people go, "Oh, Gareth Barry played 3,000 minutes and won the title the season before he came to Everton." There's a big difference between where they are at the stage of their careers, and I think, you know, coming to the Premier League with no experience at that age, it's just. I know people go Thiago Silva,
and was the best player
Champions
in
League
Europe
final last season. So again, it's a different. Exactly, it's a completely different case, and I think. I don't think we'll sign Sami Khedira. Well, I hope we don't. But that's I understand when people go, it's good for younger players. But I think we don't need any more people sitting on the wage. But we've already got a Fabian Delph, and let's be honest, I think he'd be in some cases worse than Delph.
But we have to get away from this. Don't we? We have to get away from this idea of he's better than what we've got. Like that's a benchmark. Like. Just because it's a name, it's a reputation. I mean, you know, listen, all three of us were around in. Like the Walter Smith era when we were bringing people in like Gazan, bringing people in like Ginola, and those players were had clearly had better careers and were better players. Yeah, Mark Hughes than anyone we had at the time. But you seen the minute David Moyes came in, he's just like, no, I'm not having any of these. Go away. I'm going to bring in young, hungry footballers who are going to build and grow together, and that's how he achieves so much. We don't need these people hanging around the club more. We've already got the likes of Fabian Delph, as you mentioned, who are sucking the life out of the club. And for me, when I see these people mentioned now, I just, without offending anyone, no, I'm not really asked if I do offend anyone, but I just think people screaming for people like Sami Khedira is just complete lack of football knowledge or business knowledge of how you balance, because all these people who are screaming for Sami Khedira are the same people who are screaming for 3 or 4 players every summer as well. Why aren't we going after that player? Why aren't we going after that player? Why aren't we going? Well, we're not going for that player because these people are sucking the life out of the club.
They're the same people though who will be screaming why we can't then get rid of Sami Khedira.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing. It's the same. I've seen it with James, and it's got not. James is brilliant, and he's fantastic. He's been a great signing, and hopefully he'll continue to prove that. But even the other week when he was injured, people were going, why did we sign him if we knew he wasn't going to be fit? The same people that were stamping the feet when the deal didn't go through on day one because Everton were looking and going, weighing up everything. Do we need, having to restructure it or having to have other conversations with Real Madrid to get round the injuries? I can understand to a certain extent people being captivated, if that's the right word, by Isco because he's 4 years younger than Khedira, 5 years younger. I kind of get that a little bit because he has been a brilliant footballer and he's played a lot of, albeit he hasn't played a lot lately, but over the years he's played great games for Madrid. I still don't get it. I still wouldn't get him, but I can understand that slightly. Sami Khedira, I can't. If someone said Sami Khedira's coming in January for 4 months on loan, and he's going, Everton have got no intention of signing him. He's going to America in the summer, but he's coming for 4 months on loan, and it's the only real bit of business Everton can do for whatever reason. Then you might look and go, right, is he better than Delph? Probably. Is he better than Tom Davies? Well, he's more experienced, possibly. That's where that argument of, or if Sami Khedira was 26, you might look and go, well, is he better than what we've got? Well, yeah, because we can't get what we really want. He's better than what we've got, and he's still at an age where he's fit and he can do this, that, and the other. 34-year-old Sami Khedira who hasn't kicked the ball all season and wants 100-odd grand a week. It makes no sense, and it just puts us back in the situation we're in, where we're letting players go out on loan just to get rid of them off the books?
I think that with fans, I think a lot of it is because, let's be honest, a lot of fans don't follow week to week Spanish football. They don't follow week to week Italian football. The last time they seen Sami Khedira was La Decima or World Cup, whatever it may be, and that's the abiding memory. I think a lot of the time, I think that's where it comes unstuck sometimes. Is the fact that they have played. It's the same with the Eriksen thing. I think we'll probably talk about him, Christian Eriksen, but Christian Eriksen's been bombed out in Italy, which is strange, really, but. Again, I think he's a good player, but do we need another James, essentially? And I think James is a better version of Christian Eriksen, let's be honest. So it's nice to go after names, and these names are better than what we've got, but it's got to fit what we need in the team. And so I think fans sometimes lose sight of that yes, by name, Sami Khedira is better than Tom Davies, but Tom Davies has got the legs that Sami Khedira hasn't, and I think I'd rather give Tom Davison 6 months to see whether he has got anything left in his Everton career, rather than pay someone. He's on 190. I think he's on 160 grand a week after tax at Juventus. He'd probably take 90 or 100 to come here. So
you mentioned Christian Eriksen there, who I was going to come on to. We've obviously been linked with him as well. I mean, obviously this was a player who looked brilliant for Spurs. Then, as we seen on the documentary. Wanted to try his luck into Milan in his last. I think it was in his last year, wasn't he? They got a little bit for him this time last year, wasn't it? Yeah. Listen, I don't know whether Everton are looking in that direction or not, but would he just be another Sigurdsson, or would you see again? Say it was a loan deal, some value in this.
I guess there is some value in the sense that I get, but we don't really play a 10, so. Then does he go on the left or does he go on the right? And then him of James in the same team is too much for me. I know that's crazy for some to say. I know Carlo will probably be able to balance that in some way. But they're very similar type of players. They want to be in the similar positions between the lines, drifting centrally. I just don't think it work. Again, is he better than Sigurdsson? Yeah, if you offered me which one, I'd obviously take Christian Eriksen all day. But he doesn't fit. If Christian Eriksen happens to be a pacey right winger that could beat his man, then all day. But I don't think he's right for us.
It's another one that from a fan's point of view, when you see that kind of thing, you get excited, and he's a good player still in his peak. But is he what we really need? Well, we've got Andre Gomes, we've got Sigurdsson, we've got James Rodriguez. We've already got 3 in that mould. I'm not saying Andre Gomes is the same as him, and I know he's better than Sigurdsson, but they're all sort of in that mould. They're not going to give us what we actually need, which, again, I personally think we need a proper defensive midfielder, and if we could get Garner on loan, which I'm not saying we could, I'm only saying that because we've seen links that PSG are willing to get rid of a section of players, and he's one of them. So if there was even a smallest opportunity to sort that out. And also we've got, when you look at the Moise Kean situation and 31 million being mentioned this week as well. Do you think that would be good business at this stage? Do you think is that too low, or would that be the right price if it meant that could get us funds to go out into the market at the moment?
I know people have argued, this is another thing people have argued with. It depends what leverage I think Everton have got. I think people go, well, so-and-so scored that many goals in that league, and but what we've basically said by sending Moise Kean out on loan without replacing him is that we didn't need Moise Kean this season. And I think that it's well, and Raul is probably, not soft in the fact that he probably knows that, he will never start for Everton. And if he ever is to get a big move, that ultimate move, like a Pogba type move, he's going to have to play somewhere. And obviously Paris Saint-Germain probably fits better in that timeline than Everton does. I just don't think Everton can ask for 40 million off Paris Saint-Germain. I just don't think they'd pay it. I think you'd be stuck with the player. And I think that Carlo's been quite clever in saying, and obviously the Athletic reported today that he expects him back next season. I don't think we do expect him back next season, I'll be honest. I think that ship sailed. And don't be wrong, I would have liked it to work out for Moise Kean. It just hasn't. He's probably going to have a good career elsewhere. And you'll get people in 3 years' time saying, we should have kept him. But if he stays, he'll never turn out that way for him. So I think if we could get 30 to 35 million, then I'd snap their hands up, because it's making more than what we got back. And, at the end of the day, that looks good on the balance sheet.
We talked about this yesterday, and if you've all the young lads who's played for Juventus in the Champions League, played in the national team for Italy. He's got a chance to go to the Euros. And could go to the Euros as their number one striker, easily. If he has a good back end of the season, then you go to somewhere like Paris Saint-Germain with all the razzmatazz, with that Neymar and Mbappe. Why would you come back to Everton, sit on the bench for a team that's not playing in Europe? Like, it doesn't... The whole package just doesn't suit him. I know the idea of coming to Everton was to relaunch himself as the number one striker. Why would you come back to Everton? You can play every week in the French league. You get the games in the Champions League. You've got the stature of being a Paris Saint-Germain player. You can put that all over your Instagram. You know, you can be in a couple of FIFA adverts or something. Why would you be bothered coming back to Everton? Just doesn't make any sense at all.
If he had a chance of establishing himself as the number one, you'd say yeah, but we only play one up front. We're not really going to play him wide right or wide left because he's not proved he can do it. So he's battling to try and displace Dom, who, let's be honest, is better than him in terms of for the Premier League, on what he showed, on what you have to do in the Premier League. Dominic Calvert-Lewin at this moment is better than Moise Kean. At the end of the career, Moise Kean might be better than Dom. We don't know. But for him, it's a flip of a coin, isn't it? Do we go back? Everton might be in Europe, so I get games. If Paris Saint-Germain offer him the chance, he's not going to want to come back here. Not now.
It's like, you know, would you rather be in a standard room in the Ritz or first class in an EasyJet hotel? Do you know what I mean?
Just play...
I haven't stayed in these hotels.
If you think about like what he's done so far, he's got 9 goals in 16 games for them. He's played Champions League for them. Like you've just said, Italy will be their ears will prick back up because he's playing. You know, so therefore to come back to Everton, none of it makes any sense really.
Andy, if we could get the 31 million right now, come on, who can we go and get right now? Jen, come on.
It's if you know I think if you want to pay, you could probably pay Norwich that for Adams, but I wouldn't pay 30 million for Max Adams. I just wouldn't. But then if you're that desperate, then you go and pay it. That's Everton to decide. Or do you then go to Leon? You know, you sell Cenk for
Pence 9
to 10 million as well, or whatever we're going to get for him off West Brom. Yeah, Pence, whatever. And then you go to Baz's favourite Leverkusen and say, "We'll take Bailey, probably who signs with an English agency, probably to get a move here." So there are options there. It just depends what Everton feels right. I don't think we should overpay, and also overpay expecting a player to come in and change our fortunes. I think if we overpay, it's because we need them right here, right now, and I just don't see there's a player that we need right here, right now.
What do you think of Zeki Celic? I know we spoke about him in the summer, but Fabrizio Romano has mentioned him again this week.
He's a good player, good, decent defend, above average defensively, and he's good going forward. It whips crosses in, it'd be perfect because he overlaps and underlaps really well. He can get beyond that, getting behind the defence and cause problems, which we lack now with Seamus, because when he does, he just hasn't got that final ball, has he? So that'd be great, but again, I think what's just happened there is Everton have rang up, saying what's the situation, and then his agents just dropped it to Fabrizio, which happens all the time. Like when I read it, the tweet said he's contacted the agent. Clubs contact agents all the time. Agents contact clubs all the time. It's just something that happens. It looks good for a transfer rumour, but I don't think Everton are in a position to be buying him at this moment in time. I think he'll probably go to Rome.
I think at the end.
I didn't know who the fella was 2 days ago, and I'm not going to get too upset.
Told you about him in the summer.
I don't listen.
I guess the Moise Kean, what we're told and what we're led to believe going into this window was that Everton weren't going to do any business. They weren't planning on doing in terms of income. Obviously, players going out sometimes can change your plans. I mean, we're talking. Seen Jonas Lersel to Inter Miami, which it's not going to bring us any money, but it'll.
Yeah, what? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, they're talking to him into Miami. Leslie wants to go. So, he may move this window. Bernard looks like that's going to happen with Roma.
It'll happen eventually.
And Olsen will come this way, and I know we'll get 3 or 4 million on top as well. There's a couple. I expect Balassi and Bezic to go out this window. But and Tosin may go as well. But if Everton get rid of Keane, he's the one money transfer that maybe they weren't expecting this window. And therefore, if you bought Leon Bailey, please Everton, for 30 million, say, I know it was 25 in the summer, whatever, you're not having to pay that 30 million out, are you? So Everton could take the 30 million in from PSG, and it's 10 million for Bailey going out, and it looks great on the books. And I think that might be the way Everton look at it. But we don't know, do we? It gives us an opportunity, if we did get rid of Keane, to bring something in for the remainder of the season. And like, I think you keep banging on about this, but it's right, is that if we could get him in, even if he's average between now and the summer, he's your player then, hitting the ground running.
Well, this is what Andy said to us last week, wasn't it? You mentioned this last weekend when we were talking about this, you know, in terms of successful buys in January. You've either got a player who hits the ground running, like a Bruno Fernandes, who goes straight into the team and is instrumental, or you have a player who beds in for that 5 months, if that's someone you wanted. Now, and again, it's sticking to the plan, isn't it? It all comes down to sticking to the plan, not jumping in, looking for a player that you mightn't have already been looking at, but because you suddenly see the attraction of Champions League or whatever, you dive in for someone when he's not really what you want, and you overpay, and you overpay his wages. So if a Bailey was to come in, and he could at the very least bed in for the 5 months, and then become, you know, a real top player next season, that would still be something, wouldn't it, if it was part of the overall plan?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. As I said, you know, I think I made up a report. Man City was, you know, he just bedded in for those first 6 months, was just okay. And then the next season, he was one of the best centre-backs in the league. And I think that time to bed in and obviously be part of the club, it would help people instead of, you know, sometimes coming in the summer and, you know, then all the expectations on you initially. I think, you know, obviously I think the issue would be anyone coming in now, if they didn't hit the ground running, they'd be like, you know, Brands has made a mistake or Carlo's lost his touch, yada, 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 talk. But you've just got to be patient with players. You know, we've seen it before. I think having the right manager, Carlo, has helped certain players who didn't look great last season. We've seen Obi's uptick in form. We've seen other people's uptick in form. I think we just need to be patient. But if we can bring Bailey in, then yeah, I think 6 months in the league, getting adapted, would be perfect for him.
Yeah, it will be interesting. And like you said, the Keane thing might change Everton's plans. This, you know, might be an unexpected development. Then again, PSG mightn't sign him. You know, I think if they were going to, I think now would be the perfect time to do it, because I think if he has another good 3 or 4 months at Paris Saint-Germain, then in the summer,
he has good Euros.
Juve might come back for him, and a couple of other teams might look at him and go, actually, you know, we'll get involved in this. Where PSG, it might be worth them just getting a deal done now. And I actually, the Ghana thing appeals to me as well, to be honest, even though I feel like we need more powerful midfield play. The thing with Ghana is he does a couple of jobs, and if you put him in the midfield with Allen and Decore, then I think you'd have a lot of legs getting around that pitch. That midfield would be very industrious and would allow the creative players or the more attacking players to thrive. So maybe Everton.
I'd hate to run into them all.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I'd hate to run into them all.
It's busy, isn't it? It's a busy midfield then, and that, you know, Everton haven't really got that.
There's energy in there.
And Garner's fit, isn't he? He's one of them lads who you still think in 3 years will still be running around.
And I know that's like this, and people go, oh, just because he used to play for us. But if that's your in, isn't it? And I think if he was to become available and didn't want to make up his mind right now about where he goes, then I think I'd be banging on their door, especially if the Moise Keane thing's there as well, and you're in communication with them. Then why not? We've already, you know, we've sold them a player and may possibly sell them another player in a couple of years. That means that we've obviously, at the business end of things, we've got a relationship with them. So. Yeah.
And they'll probably say take Julian Draxler off them.
They might do, you know,
Isn't he?
And I'd like Julian Draxler, but again, another one who's just too similar. I'd like that on pace or a midfielder who can win the ball back. No more cultured midfielders who, you know, can't win the ball back. I think we need a specific type of players.
What about Florian Thauvin, whatever his name is at Marseille? He's out of contract in the summer as well, isn't he? What do you think of him?
Now, when he was at Newcastle, it ended horribly, obviously. It didn't really work out, but he's been absolutely superb for Marseille. My issue is the risk element of it. You know, he would want big money. He's not soft. You know, he'd want a long contract. You know, you might end up selling him after a year if he doesn't adapt again. It's just too much risk for Everton to take on. At 27, is that risk worth it? Probably not, because I don't think you could probably sell them on. You'd have to sell them back to France, and with their TV deal now, apart from PSG, no one can afford to pay big money. So,
well, there's another player who still hasn't signed a contract who I would absolutely love Everton to get. And it's very unlikely, but I would love to get him, and that is, of course, Donnarumma, who is still out of contract in the summer, 21 years of age, and it's still not done that deal with Milan. So, I mean, would he be someone you'd like at Everton, Andy? However unrealistic.
Oh, the door's always open for Gigi Donnarumma, of course there is. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You couldn't turn him down, let's be honest. I know he's only 21, but he's still not the perfect goalkeeper yet, but he's much better than what we've got. I think he's better than both keepers we've got at the same time, if I'm honest. But, I think the really quality keeper, and I don't think Everton would be in the market, in the conversation for him. I think, unfortunately, the elites are probably in for him. I don't know. Yeah, I'd expect him to go somewhere where he's going to get paid $200,000 a week, and I don't think Everton are probably in that situation quite yet with what's coming into the club where we can put forward players.
Let's move on. Saturday FA Cup, third round, Rotherham at home. Do we throw everything at this, or how do we see this going in terms of players playing? What would you do, Baz?
I think obviously, had we beaten West Ham, then I might have had a slightly different approach to this one. But I think it's about winning the game and getting some feel-good factor going again. Not that it's all dissipated, but you just want to keep that winning habit going. And obviously, we've lost our last 2 home games, which don't tend to do very often, Everton, in terms of it's the second time we've had that run. United and Leeds beat us with 2 on the run, and then we've lost these 2. So I want us to get back from that. It's a game that I feel, for the likes of the Richarlison, could do with a goal. He's quite clearly, and Dom's the other one, isn't he? Dom is a case of he hasn't scored for a few games and will fancy himself in this one to get goals. But you do have to look at the health of the squad as well, I guess. But it'll have been 8 days since we played.
Yeah,
we go to Wolves midweek, and then Villa, which are 2 tough games. Michael Keane may be back. So it'll be a case, I think, of juggling it. I want to see, I said to you before, I want to see Ellis Sims on the bench for this one. Because I think these are the types of games that you've got an opportunity to put someone in. And I'd actually play Niels and Kunku in this one as well. Yeah. I think this would be a good opportunity to get him some minutes. But
I'd definitely play Ben Godfrey at centre-back as well in this game. I think this is a good opportunity to move him over to centre-back and see what he's like there. That's his preferred position. We've seen him play, like I said, the under-21, England under-21s. He's obviously played for Norwich there. So I'd play him at centre-back in this game and bring Niels and Kunku in, and I'd probably be tempted to go with Dom and Richarlison as well, and because they both let them go out there, and I'm sure they'll be chomping to play. I know obviously we've got a game 3 days later, but as you just mentioned, we haven't played for 8 days. I'm sure there's been a mix of rest, recovery, and looking forward to this game. So I wouldn't, I'm not definitely not advocating swapping it all around, but there are little small changes we can make. I'd start James Rodriguez as well. Definitely, I think a player who's only played 15 minutes or 20 minutes in a month. I think this is a perfect game to get him an hour.
Yeah. Get him
back playing football, and and hopefully again just getting the spirits up a little bit for himself and for some of the players who need a goal and the fans. And
I'd go like 6 first teamers, 5 bench players, or 7 and 4. I wouldn't change it completely, because obviously I think there's a risk of cohesion and cohesiveness then. But I'd say you need, I would play God. You're right there. I'd play in Kunku at left back, Godfrey at centre back. I'd play probably Seamus Coleman at right back. I'd probably play James as well. Probably bring Gordon in. Probably Tom and Gomez in midfield. I know that's not great. The issue is, I think Rotherham are on a bad side. I know they're not doing great. They're probably not doing great in the Championship, but they're all right. They're quite decent side going forward, and they might cause us problems if we turn up with a completely changed side. So, and obviously, let's be honest, if we got to the final of the FA Cup and won it, it'd be great, great end to the season for us. So I think that's got to be in the back of our minds that we have to progress. But we do have to balance the fact that we've got Wolves, which is a bit, it's not a 6 pointer, if you will, but usually Wolves are in around the same places as us. So beating them, especially while they haven't got the star striker, would is an opportunity for us. So I think we need to be smart in how we rotate the squad.
Yeah, I also think the fact Goodison being empty as well is a big factor as well in these games. We've seen in the game against Salford, didn't we? That we've seen in the other games, but with no fans. What we've seen, so the evidence so far is it's a lot harder for the lower division teams. And I know Rotherham are Championship and they're not, I'm not saying they're terrible or anything, but it just seems like it's harder for those teams. It seems like the quality does shine through a little bit more. So I think if we go into it, we've got a professional attitude, and obviously we haven't been conceding a lot recently, so just get the job done, isn't it? Third round, we were talking yesterday about trying to remember memorable third round games, and you just can't, because it's just a case of getting the job done. Score a couple of goals, get the job done, almost just knock the stuffing out the opposition as early as you can, if they're lower league, and then because they haven't got that extra thing of having the fans there to give them the extra push. I think if we do that on Saturday, fingers crossed, we should be all right.
Yeah, I'd have Olsen in goal as well. Get Olsen in goal and really just get at them and say to these players who are coming in, it's your opportunity. Like you say, get Ben Godfrey in at centre-back, maybe playing with Yerry Mina. Maybe it's an opportunity to put Holgate in midfield and have a look at him there or something. If you wanted to give them games, they haven't played as many as others. The manager might not want to do that. He might want to use specialist players in there. But I think it's a chance to try a couple of things with good players still in there. And people like Mason Holgate are still going to put the foot in. You see, I looked at him last week against West Ham and he's still taking too many chances at centre-back for me. So I look at him and think maybe right back, maybe centre midfield might be a better thing for him. He's 24, so he's got to stamp out the mistakes he's making, but then it is what it is. We've got to go out with a strong enough team to be able to beat them, but like you say, can we get it done after an hour and then maybe have someone like Ellis Sims on the bench and give him that
I mean, that's
10
or 15
what we want, minutes at the end.
That's what we want.
Don't bring Tosin on, leave him for West Brom because they might need him.
Yeah, don't get him cup side.
Don't want to get him cup side. No. Big Sam loves that.
Is this Sam's?
Yeah, Sam's going to be playing.
I can't wait to see West Brom's team. And I don't even know if they're playing.
He'll be in goal. Get Sammy Lee back.
It'd be incredible. Can't wait to see their team will just be full of scholars. Not footballing scholars, actual scholars. He's been on a scouting trip to Greece. He's been on a scouting trip to Greece.
So great. Yeah. Bill and Ted, the left and right back. Billy the kid. He'll just want to get out of that, won't he? Yeah. Allardyce will just be like, don't need that complication, won't he? He will. So
you'll want to get out of it quicker than a pair of undies after a big Indian. I just want to leave you with that little image.
What a disgusting.
White ones with lots of sweat on them.
Let's talk about something else.
Lots of sweat.
So hopefully, I mean, again.
But don't forget, he's also eating in those underpants as well. Mate. So they've got a little bit of curry sauce on them as well, which he's digging with his fingernail to try and get off. But then he suddenly realised it isn't curry sauce.
He just ruined it.
Who, me or him? All right.
You? I'm trying to make something. Well,
that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying. Right, that's it. We're done anyway. We're done for another week. Big thanks to Andy for joining us on the podcast. If you're watching the video on Patreon, you'll see he's in a very relaxed. He looks very relaxed, doesn't he? He looks like he's lying on a bed with his arm above him. And that's good stuff. Thinking about Big Sam's undies. There you go. We'll be back soon on the podcast. Make sure you get over to Toffee TV's YouTube channel to check out all the videos. Patreon if you want more exclusive live every day. See you later.